Breaking news. Kemi Badenoch just made the most radical announcement in Conservative Party history. And what happened next has sent shockwaves through Westminster and across Europe. The Conservative leader has officially declared that Britain will leave the European Convention on Human Rights. Reform UK is surging past the Tories in every major poll, and Nigel Farage is now seen as more likely to become Prime Minister than Badenoch herself. This isn't just politics anymore. This is a party fighting for its very survival. If you want to stay ahead of stories like this that reshape British politics, hit that subscribe button right now because what you're about to see will change how you think about the Conservative Party forever. Here's what sparked the biggest Conservative Party crisis in decades. Just days ago, Kemi Badenoch dropped a political bombshell at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester. Her message was crystal clear. Britain will leave the European Convention on Human Rights if the Conservatives win the next election. But this wasn't just another policy announcement. This was a desperate attempt to save a dying political party. The numbers tell the brutal story. The latest polling shows Reform UK at 25%, Labour at 24%, and the Conservatives trailing behind at just 21%. For the first time in modern history, the Conservatives have fallen to third place behind Reform UK. The party of Margaret Thatcher, Winston Churchill, and centuries of British tradition is being crushed by a party that didn't even exist 5 years ago. But here's the political earthquake that nobody saw coming. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson has launched his most direct attack on Nigel Farage since leaving office, accusing Reform UK of being Putin apologists and questioning their seriousness on both domestic and foreign policy. Johnson claims Reform UK support was minimal during his leadership and dismisses current polling as temporary noise. The former Prime Minister even condemned Farage's pledge to abolish the two-child benefit cap as completely mad and lacking any fiscal credibility. Badenoch's ECHR announcement wasn't born from strength. It was born from pure desperation. Internal polling shows that nearly half of Conservative voters lack confidence that Badenoch will still be party leader by the next election. 18 former Conservative MPs have already defected to Reform UK, with more expected to follow. The party's favorability rating has collapsed to -34, the lowest of any major political party. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage's personal approval ratings continue to climb, with 31% of Britons holding a favorable view of him compared to just 16% for Badenoch. Yet critics point out that Farage has been making technically impossible promises that insult voters' intelligence.
But I'll give you a precise instance. Back in July, Farage went down to South Wales, and he went to Port Talbot, and he made a speech in which he advocated the quote-quote reindustrialization of South Wales, specifying his desire to reopen collieries and to restart the blast furnaces in the Port Talbot steelworks. Now, anybody who knows anything about coal mining or steel making or just lives in those areas knows that you can sink a new pit, but you can't reopen one. And you can build a new blast furnace, though I don't think anybody in the world ever would, but you can't restart one. So without any reservation, he was insulting the intelligence and knowledge of the people that he was addressing. When he was asked by a young woman journalist whether these things were possible, he switched to saying they were aspirations, and that anything was possible with a change of mindset.
In South Wales, he promised to reopen collieries and restart blast furnaces, promises that anyone with basic industrial knowledge knows cannot be fulfilled. You simply cannot reopen a closed pit or restart a blast furnace. These are figments of imagination and delusion, not facts and reality. The ECHR announcement was supposed to be Badenoch's masterstroke. Shadow Attorney General Lord Wolfson conducted a detailed legal review and concluded that leaving the convention was the only way to meet Badenoch's 5 sovereignty tests. These include securing Britain's borders, stopping foreign criminals from claiming benefits, and ending what she calls spurious legal challenges. The plan is radical beyond belief. If implemented, Britain would become the only European country besides Russia to leave the human rights framework established after World War II. The implications are staggering. The ECHR is woven into the Good Friday Agreement that brought peace to Northern Ireland. Legal experts warn that withdrawal could destabilize the peace process and damage Britain's international reputation forever. But then something unprecedented happened that nobody saw coming. The Conservative Party membership is in open revolt against their own leader. Internal party sources reveal that shadow cabinet meetings have devolved into shouting matches. Ministers are privately questioning whether Badenoch has the political skills to lead the party back to power. The atmosphere inside Conservative headquarters is described as complete panic and despair. Senior MPs are signing letters demanding urgent changes to party strategy, terrified of losing their seats to Reform UK candidates. Over 40 backbench MPs have publicly distanced themselves from key party policies. Meanwhile, the Margaret Thatcher nostalgia at the Conservative conference told the real story. Giant cardboard cutouts of the Iron Lady, glass cabinets showcasing her outfits, and photo collages dominated the event. It wasn't just marking 100 years since Thatcher's birth. It was a party desperately clinging to past glories because they have no vision for the future.
She would have been 100 tomorrow. And of course, you've been on telly for decades now. In the 80s, in her pomp, you were one of the best known celebrities and public figures. Did you ever cross paths with Mrs. T?
I certainly did. I met her several times, but I think the funniest one was I went to Charles Forte's memorial service in Westminster Abbey, and we sat in our seats, and she strode down the aisle just before the service was about to happen, and she sat there, and then afterwards there was a reception, and she had a young man on her arm. And they walked around this reception, and they walked towards us, and he turned to her and said, "Christopher Biggins, actor." And she went, "Christopher, how are you?" And I thought, this is what I need in my life, is a young man on my arm to remind me who people are as I approach them. And she was wonderful. And I also met her at 10 Downing Street, and we had a conversation. And in my book, there's 3 pictures of us. And the first picture, we're doing this. The second picture, we're doing this, and the third picture, we're doing this. And the pictures, we're talking about art, because the whole of 10 Downing Street is filled with wonderful art. And so that was the conversation there.
Party members shared anecdotes about meeting Thatcher at Westminster Abbey receptions and Downing Street gatherings, some even becoming emotional when recalling her removal from office, as if living in a time capsule from the 1980s. Badenoch has repeatedly compared herself to Thatcher, pointing out that the Iron Lady also struggled when she first became leader. But there's a crucial difference. When Thatcher became Conservative leader in 1975, the party was 14 points behind Labour, but still seen as the main alternative to the government. Today, many voters see Nigel Farage as the real right-wing alternative, while Badenoch struggles for basic relevance. Yet even Boris Johnson himself has thrown his full support behind Kemi Badenoch, calling her the future of the Tory party and praising her serious, sensible policies. Despite polls showing Reform UK at 27% versus Conservatives at 17%, Johnson insists the Conservatives will recover under Badenoch's leadership. He frames this as a strategic battle to prevent the fragmentation of the right-wing vote and rally wavering Conservative voters against what he calls Farage's populist movement. The economic and political earthquake is just getting started. American tech companies are already reassessing their UK operations due to Britain's increasingly restrictive digital laws. The post-Brexit recovery that Conservative leaders promised is crumbling as international investors lose confidence in British political stability. Reform UK has capitalized on every Conservative misstep, with their Veterans First campaign and hardline immigration policies resonating with working-class voters who once formed the backbone of Conservative support. The party's traditional donor base is fragmenting, with major contributors switching allegiance to Reform UK or simply withdrawing their support entirely. Social media has become a battleground where the Conservatives are losing badly. The hashtag conservative crisis has been trending for weeks, with viral videos contrasting Badenoch's wooden performances with Farage's natural charisma. Professional political commentators are openly discussing whether the Conservative Party will survive as a major political force. The visual narrative dominating every screen shows a party that has completely lost touch with ordinary voters. While Badenoch talks about thoughtful conservatism and long-term planning, Farage delivers simple, direct messages that cut through the noise and reach millions of people instantly. The breaking point came during a recent Prime Minister's questions when Labour MPs hammered Badenoch over her party's irrelevance. The House of Commons watched as she stumbled through responses, constantly referring to pre-written notes while struggling to defend policies that even her own MPs don't fully support. For several agonizing minutes, the leader of the opposition looked like someone who had completely lost control of her party and her message. The contrast with Farage's confident media performances couldn't be more stark. While Badenoch appears defensive and scripted, Farage projects the image of a leader who knows exactly what he wants to achieve. The international fallout is equally devastating. European Union officials are privately questioning whether Britain is becoming a reliable partner under Conservative leadership. The proposed ECHR withdrawal has alarmed allies who see it as a step toward authoritarianism. From Washington to Berlin, headlines paint a picture of a country drifting away from its democratic traditions. Yet even prominent labor figures are expressing concern about the Conservative collapse. As one senior politician recently observed, democracy depends on having a rational, forward-looking right-of-center party to contest Labor's ideas.
Who've been around the block a few times know that unless they make a radical change and address the realities of today and the challenges of tomorrow, it's going to be a long time before they produce a leader who can become Prime Minister.
On that ominous note, thank you very much for your
Do you
time.
think it's ominous?
Well, I think if you're a Conservative Party supporter, it might be.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And well, I tell you what, I'm the last bloke in the world to make an appeal to Tories. But I would say that so much of our system and the integrity of our democracy depends upon there being a rational, forward-looking, right-of-centre party to contest the ideas of democratic socialist Labour, that we'd all be losers if that option disappeared.
We'd all be losers if that option disappeared and was replaced by populist simplicities. The importance of serious political opposition for democratic integrity cannot be overstated, but the deeper crisis is moral and intellectual bankruptcy. When your party's biggest policy announcement is copying what Reform UK proposed months earlier, you're not leading the political conversation. You're desperately chasing it. When polling shows that more people believe Nigel Farage will become Prime Minister than your own party leader, you're not facing normal political opposition. You're facing an existential crisis that threatens your party's very survival. The Conservative Party spent 14 years in government and failed to deliver on immigration, economic growth, or political stability. Now they're asking voters to trust them again with promises that sound identical to those made by their competitors. The visual evidence of Conservative decline is everywhere. Conference halls that once buzzed with energy and optimism now feel like funeral parlors for a dying political movement. The average age of Conservative Party members continues to rise while younger voters abandon the party in record numbers. Local Conservative associations are struggling to find candidates willing to stand in winnable seats, knowing they'll likely lose to Reform UK challengers. The party's social media engagement rates have collapsed while Reform UK's continue to soar. Every metric that matters in modern politics shows a party in terminal decline. Every day brings fresh revelations of Conservative weakness and Reform UK strength. More leaked internal documents showing party infighting, more viral social media content exposing Conservative hypocrisy, more polling data confirming the party's slide into irrelevance. The algorithms on every platform are amplifying Reform UK content because the engagement rates are through the roof. The emotional power of Farage's message is so intense that it spreads faster than any conservative response can contain it. This isn't just a political scandal anymore. It's become the defining symbol of everything wrong with establishment politics in Britain. Social media groups supporting Reform UK have gained hundreds of thousands of members, while conservative online communities shrink daily. They're organizing campaigns, fundraising for candidates, and creating viral content that reaches millions of voters who have given up on traditional conservative messaging. Inside conservative headquarters, sources describe an atmosphere of complete desperation. Ministers who once stood loyally beside previous leaders are now quietly exploring their exit strategies. Conservative Party officials are privately discussing whether the party can survive until the next election without splitting apart completely. The question is no longer whether the Conservative Party can win the next election. Political analysts across the spectrum agree that Badenoch's leadership is effectively finished. The only question now is whether the Conservative Party can avoid complete collapse and maintain enough MPs to remain a significant political force. Britain is watching a historic political party self-destruct in real time. This crisis will be studied for decades as a textbook example of how established political parties can lose relevance when they fail to connect with changing voter priorities. The political earthquake is accelerating, and the aftershocks will reshape British politics for years to come. At its epicenter stands a woman who looks increasingly isolated, increasingly desperate, and increasingly irrelevant. Badenoch's ECHR announcement wasn't about policy leadership, it was about political survival. And on that measure, she has failed so completely that her own party members are abandoning ship while voters flock to her competitors. That's not just political defeat. That's historical irrelevance that will define her legacy and potentially end her party's role in British politics forever. What do you think? Has the Conservative Party lost its relevance forever? Is Kemi Badenoch fighting a battle she can never win? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, and if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, share it with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in British politics right now. The mainstream media won't tell you the full truth about the Conservative Party's crisis, but we will.